Hey, it's Mallory here with All About Cats. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing a product that I always like talking about, which is the Litter Robot. Specifically, the Litter Robot 3 with Connect, which is their top-of-the-line automatic litter box that happens to also be Wi-Fi enabled. So I've had the Litter Robot for a while, and over the last couple of weeks, I've been really taking some time to pay attention to how it works. So I've been taking notes on its sifting performance, odor control, exactly how my cats reacted to it, which litter products work best in it, things like that. So stay tuned until the end of the video to get all of my thoughts on the Litter Robot and whether or not I think that this automatic litter box is really worth the $500 price tag. So at first glance, it's clear that the Litter Robot is not your typical litter box. It doesn't look like your standard litter box or your standard self-cleaning litter box. It's this big sort of globe-shaped contraption. It measures 30 inches by 25 inches by 27 inches, so it takes up quite a lot of space. In addition to being really eye-catching, the Litter Robot might be kind of hard to fit in smaller spaces. So if you want to fit the Litter Robot into a bathroom or some other kind of cramped area, you're going to want to really pay attention and make sure you actually have enough space. So once the Litter Robot detects that something's inside, it's going to automatically start a timer. You can adjust this timer to run for anywhere between 3 and 15 minutes, but 7 minutes seems to be the sweet spot for most people, and it's what comes default in the Litter Robot. When a cycle begins, the globe begins to rotate. As the globe rotates, the litter starts shifting along and the rubber liner on the inside starts to pop out, and it kind of pushes anything that's stuck on the bottom down towards the sifter. So all of the litter then moves through the sifter. Clean litter is reserved for later, and the clumps are directed down into the waste drawer down below. And then once the waste has been deposited into the waste drawer, the Litter Robot rotates back, the clean litter moves back into the litter bed area, and then it rotates a little bit further than it needs to in order to let the litter get flat, and then it rotates back into position. So you get a nice, fresh, flat bed of litter once the cycle is complete. It sifts the litter really effectively. It doesn't leave a lot of chunks or clumps behind, and it doesn't seem to have a lot of sticking. Now, a lot of this is going to depend on which type of litter you use. Now, Litter Robot recommends that you use a medium-grained, hard clumping cat litter with the Litter Robot. I've tried it with a few different products, so I've used it with a very lightweight, fine-grained litter, which was kind of a disaster. There was a ton of sticking going on. And I've also used it with Tidy Cat's 24/7 Performance, a Fresh Step clumping clay, and I've used it with Dr. Elsie's Ultra clumping clay. And it worked really well with all of these. So all of these are hard clumping clay litters that create cohesive clumps very quickly. I've also tried the Litter Robot with a couple of biodegradable clumping litters, so I've used it with a cheaper grass-based litter, and it didn't work so well. There was a lot of sticking. And I've used it with World's Best cat litter, and it worked really well. There was a little bit more sticking with the World's Best than with any of the good hard clumping clays I used, but it was still acceptable. Now, I find that adding litter to the Litter Robot can be a little bit awkward because the entrance hole is your only way of accessing the litter bed. You're going to have to figure out a way to maneuver your bag or box of litter so that the litter goes into the litter tray rather than just kind of spraying onto that lip. I find that's very difficult if you're using a larger pail, like a 35-pound pail of litter. It's going to be very difficult. So I prefer to use smaller boxes or bags of litter when I'm working with the Litter Robot. So while the sifting mechanism works really well, I did find that the Litter Robot sensor was a little bit inconsistent. So I used the Litter Robot with my two cats, Wessie and Forrest. Forrest weighs 7 pounds, Wessie weighs about 14 pounds, and the Litter Robot was inconsistent in detecting Forrest. So it's supposed to detect any cats weighing 5 pounds or more, but I found that it would only occasionally detect Forrest's presence in the Litter Robot. So this could be because she tends to kind of perch on the outside of the Litter Robot, so she'll kind of stand with her front paws on the little lip on the outside of the entryway. And maybe it's not picking up her weight because she's so light and also not entirely in the box. At any rate, I didn't get consistent results using it with Forest. So it would just be sitting there and waste would be accumulating and I would end up triggering a manual cycle. So the fact that the litter robot was so inconsistent in detecting Forest's presence in the box was particularly frustrating because she was really the only one who was actually using the litter robot. So while I introduced the litter robot to both Forest and Wessie and took some time to help them get acclimated to it, and Wessie did use it a few times, over the course of time, I found that Forest was really the only one who was actually using it. I think that Wessie felt really uncomfortable inside of the kind of cramped globe. So while the litter robot is really big, the inside of it is not particularly spacious. So the litter bed itself only measures 14 by 14 inches, and that's significantly smaller than I would like for even a small cat. Forest, on the other hand, seemed to really like the litter robot. So even if she had another litter box available, she would opt for the robot. I think the litter robot really suits Forest's size and her personality. So again, she's small enough to fit in there, and she also is the kind of cat who likes being in more confined spaces. So Forest likes hiding in closets, even going inside of shoe boxes. She likes snuggling underneath the covers. She really feels comfortable in those sort of confined spaces, whereas Wessie certainly doesn't. So with ultimately one cat using the litter robot, I found that I had to empty the contents of the waste drawer about once a week. So yes, while the litter robot does allow you to go without scooping, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have to throw away your cat's waste. When the waste drawer fills, you're going to notice that the blue ready light starts blinking, indicating that it's time to pull out the drawer and take out the trash. So I'm always surprised when I open up that drawer and realize that there's a lot of really smelly stuff in there because it does a really good job of containing those odors. Between the fact that the litter robot is cycling every single time your cat uses the litter box, theoretically, and the fact that the waste drawer is so good at containing odors, this is a really good odor control solution. As long as you're using a good, high-quality clumping cat litter, this could be a really good choice for people who want to cut back on the odors in their home. I also found that the litter robot was pretty good at controlling litter scatter. Then again, that could be because Forest isn't a really big digger. The litter robot does have this little mat on the front step that's supposed to capture some of the litter scatter, but I really don't think it's that effective. I think that if you have a cat who tends to dig quite a lot, you're probably going to have to pair the litter robot with a mat. Now it's important that you either put the mat in front of the litter robot or all the way underneath it. Putting a mat partially under the litter robot could interfere with its ability to detect cats entering the robot. So while the litter robot does a really good job of keeping the litter clean, it's not going to be able to clean itself. You are eventually going to have to give it a real deep cleaning. So it's recommended that you take everything apart and clean the litter robot at least every 3 months. So you're going to have to press that empty button to empty all of the litter into the waste drawer. You're going to remove the waste drawer and the trash bag, and then you're going to take everything apart by removing the bonnet, twisting the globe key, removing the globe, and removing the mat from the waste drawer. So once you've taken everything apart, you can either bring it outside and blast it down with a hose and some soap, or you can just keep it inside and kind of wipe it down with a wet paper towel and some soap. I found that the experience took around 15 minutes from beginning to end, including drying time. Everything dries really quickly. The litter robot is as easy to put back together as it is to disassemble. I found it pretty straightforward, although the globe can be a bit awkward to handle. Everything's pretty easy to put back in place. And then the last thing to talk about is the Litter Robot Connect app. So again, I got the Connect version of the Litter Robot, which is Wi-Fi enabled and allows you to connect it with the Litter Robot app. Now, this app is available for both iOS and Android devices and allows you to do a few pretty interesting things. It allows you to monitor how full the waste drawer is. It allows you to trigger manual cleanings remotely, and it lets you monitor how often your cats are using the litter robot. This is a particularly useful functionality because using an automatic litter box can easily make you detached from what's happening in your cat's litter box, right? And it also means that you're not getting those important health insights that come from closely monitoring what's happening there. It also allows you to adjust a lot of settings. So you can decide whether or not you want the blue light to turn on when it's dark. You can decide whether or not you want to pause cycling for 8-hour periods. That's known as sleep mode. You can choose how long you want the litter robot to wait between a cat using it and starting a cycle. It overall just gives you a lot of easy control over how your litter robot works. You can also use the Litter Robot 3 with Connect as part of a smart home. So you can connect the litter robot with a lot of other smart home appliances. So you can have it communicate with your Roomba or with lamps or with your Alexa. You have a lot of different options and they're all pretty cool. I think if you're going to get a litter robot, you should get the Wi-Fi enabled version. It really opens up a world of possibilities and I think it's well worth the additional $50. Speaking of price, again, the Litter Robot 3 is going to cost $449 in the Litter Robot store, and if you add on the Connect functionality, that's going to add up to $499. Overall, I can't really say whether or not the Litter Robot was worth it for my household. I had those sensor issues even after doing a lot of troubleshooting, trying to figure out what was wrong. And I also, of course, only had one of my 2 cats using it. It was kind of cramped and uncomfortable for my larger cat. That being said, I definitely think that the litter robot could be worth it for some homes. You're getting a lot of time back by using the litter robot. It could save you hundreds of hours over the course of your cat's lifetime. And those are hours you could be using to do a lot of things that are very much worth the money. Of course, everyone could use some additional time, but not everybody's going to want to spend money for that. People who might be particularly interested in the litter robot include people who are really busy and overwhelmed and kind of guilty about not cleaning their cat's litter box as often as they would like to, or people who have mobility issues or disabilities that make it difficult to do so. Of course, you're still going to have to empty the waste drawer and disassemble it for cleaning at least once every 3 months, so it doesn't really solve that problem entirely, but it could certainly help to make things easier. It could even be useful for people who are pregnant and can no longer safely scoop the litter box. And if you can't justify the cost of the litter robot for yourself, there's a chance you could justify it as a gift for someone else. If you know someone who's having a hard time keeping up, maybe they're spending a lot of time at work or they're just going through a rough patch or overwhelmed or whatever the case may be, and they're having a hard time keeping up with their cat's litter box cleaning, this could be a really, really nice gesture. So I hope that this was helpful and gave you some perspective on whether or not the litter robot might be a good option for your home. If you're interested in giving it a try, you can check out the description below. There will be a link to the Litter Robot store. Remember that you are covered by their 90-day money-back guarantee, so if you're not sure if your cats are going to like it or not, you can still try it and feel comfortable knowing that you can get your money back if it doesn't work out. The litter robot is also covered by a 3-year warranty. Again, I hope that this was helpful for you. If you liked this video and are interested in more product reviews, buyer's guides, and information on all things cats, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you'll get the news every time we release something new. Alright, so thank you so much for watching. Bye!